All right, our meeting will come to order. Ms. Gore, will you call the roll, please?
Ms. Conley? Present. Dr. Vial?
Present.
Mr. Benjamin?
Present.
Mr. Dunn?
Present.
Ms. Barnes? Present.
Thank you. We'll move to the pledge in a moment of silence. Ms. Manley, I'm going to ask you if you will lead us in our pledge today. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. Ms. Gore, do we have any citizens' comments? None. None? Just checking. I will move to the approval of the agenda. I have a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Barnes. Second by Ms. Conley. Any discussion? I actually would like to pull a business recommended item 7B. The approval of the superintendent's performance evaluation instrument. Dr. Clark and I have not finalized that yet, so we will get to that. We'll move that to next month. And you good with that, Dr. Clark?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Motion to approve the amended agenda.
Motion by Dr. Viock, second by Ms. Conley. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. The motion to amend the agenda passes. Now we'll move back to our main motion. Any discussion around the approval of the agenda, now the amended agenda? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion passes. We'll move on to reports. We'll start with Chairman's report. I actually do have a few things that I wanted to talk about today. I don't think we've done this already, but just as from the TSBA, I had gotten a note from Nolan Combs that said he was reaching out to board chairs whose board submitted a resolution for consideration at TSBA Delegate Assembly. And he was writing this to say, please ensure that a board member comes to the meeting to introduce the resolution to the Delegate Assembly. Nothing needs to be submitted to TSBA for this. Just wanted to make sure that no one's caught off guard during the meeting, because a couple of our resolutions have made it to Delegate Assembly. And so we'll be there. And so someone from Arlington will have the opportunity to stand and present our case for the motion that we're having passed, or we're putting for presentation. So which is kind of cool. Delegate Assembly for sure. Also, I'm not sure if we've talked about Janet Gore being our president-elect of the Tennessee Association of Board Secretaries. Have we talked about that yet? Not in this meeting, I don't think we have.
She keeps it quiet, man.
Yes, her face is all up in the TSBA periodical that comes out, so that was cool to see. It's really neat to see Arlington represented, again, with Ms. Gore for sure in this role, and then obviously our president of TSBA.
And our Delta District Director as well.
Yes, as well. That is really cool, and so it's nice to be represented on our state level for sure. And so I'm thankful for the time that everybody puts into this, but it's cool to get a voice in those areas for sure. Moving on, just as an FYI, if you get any type of media thing, especially board members, not necessarily you, Dr. Clark, but any kind of media requests, if you'll just make sure that I get included in those for sure. We don't have a whole lot other than Michael Waddell that comes by typically, but just make sure that I get included on those. And Tyler, you do a good job of that as well. Anytime I need to speak into something, but just I had gone to some training, and Mr. Dunn and I went to some training, and there's some notes that I took down that wanted to just tidy up a few areas for us for sure. TSBA publications, I love the one that just came out again because my picture was in it, from my high school picture, because it was on I Am because of public education, and I got a chance to give a testimony about being a public school kid back in the day down in Kossuth, Mississippi, the garden spot of the world.
There you go.
And I actually I finally got my math teacher's phone number from somebody in my hometown. I was able to send her a note and told her what all had happened, sent her a couple of pictures, and she was just overjoyed by the fact that happened. And so it was really cool to do that. But I would just encourage you, make sure you read your TSBA publications. A lot of good information. I know it sometimes can seem like, I'm not sure if I should read that. I don't know if I'm going to pass that by, but just really encourage you to do that.
Plus
It's
there
well
was an
done.
excellent article at the beginning.
At the beginning, of course, don't skip over the article from the president. That's right.
I would love, Mr. Chair, if I could talk
Certainly.
about the I Am because of public education. That was a brainchild of mine, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I had a little help from Tyler Hill in the production and the rollout of this. And what it does is it encourages people across the state that have any experiences with public education to make a video, tag I Am because of public education, and tag the TSBA. And we've gotten a little bit of traction even outside the state of Tennessee. When I was at COSBA, I talked about it a little bit. But for far too long, special interest groups have sort of written the narrative for public education. Depending on where you fall in that special interest group, it's not always been positive, and so much positive comes out of public education, including me. There's no way I wasn't going to the penitentiary if it weren't for public school, and a lot of my friends did. So it's something I'm very passionate about. You'll see it all over TSBA convention this year, but if you haven't had the opportunity to make a video and use those taglines, I'd appreciate it if you would. Just tell those potly. That's a beautiful story, and there's millions more like that.
Yeah.
And it's time for us to actually start writing the narrative of the things that happen in public education, what good works happen every day. There's so millions of micro interactions, and there's so much positive that comes out of it. And it is the greatest institution in the U.S. And so, end of soapbox. But if you have an opportunity to submit a video or even just an anecdotal story about how public education's been good for you personally or your children, or if you're in the profession, really anything, because without it, I promise you, I would be nothing that I am today. And I owe it all to the really 1 3rd grade teachers. So that's all. But anyway, if you guys can get behind that, that'd be amazing.
That's awesome. That's great. I'm glad
Thank you.
that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Public education takes a beating in the media and around the country, and so it's so good here, really good in Tennessee, specifically here.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, we should tell every story we get a chance to, so.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, for sure. Kudos, I'd just like to say kudos to Dr. Clark. I really appreciate how you've walked and stepped into this role. I really appreciate how you've taken on, in a very difficult circumstance, the role itself, embraced it. I don't think that our district really missed a beat in you stepping in a very tough situation. So I appreciate your leadership in that. I appreciate your way you handled our staff, led our staff, and going around to schools and listening and talking and hearing teachers. I had our last lunch that we had, I had it at Arlington Middle School, and I had more than one teacher come and say, I was considering stepping out of education this year, but I have a new pep in my step and a new more energy, it seems, to do the job. And so more than one person there told me that day, and so I really appreciate your leadership through a hard time, for sure.
I appreciate that. It means a lot to me. I am because of public education.
Amen.
My son is because of public education.
Yeah.
I have a passion and love. I feel like we have outstanding employees, and I want to lead. I want to support them. I want them to grow, because that's how our students are going to grow and be successful, because of public education.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to speak one thing about Brandon Clark. He is a fantastic kid. I had an opportunity to speak to him in front of my house I kept him way longer than he was comfortable, because I like to talk, but he just is a fantastic young man. So kudos to you and congrats on his state appearance in the golf. It was a great time talking to him.
Thank you. I'm glad he showed that he had home training.
He does. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. He was bundled up like it was 40 below and I was in the t-shirt, but he had a beanie on and a big coat.
Sometimes I cannot be a reflection of what they wear and how they wear their hair. You understand
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
All of you do.
Yes, for sure.
But just a fantastic young man.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then lastly, I just want to encourage you to vote. We are in early voting season, and it is alive and well. I was actually going to go early vote in Lakeland, which is at the IH Clubhouse, and the line was out the door. And then, so I went to Arlington to the, just outside the elementary school there at the Safe House. And it was a shorter line, but there was a lot of activity going on, a lot of people getting out to vote. So I just want to encourage you, for whoever you support, to get out and to go vote. It's certainly something that is a privilege we get as a citizen of the United States. And so just want to encourage you to get out and do that for sure. And that wraps up Chairman's report.
Okay. Thank you. So good evening. I want to express, and I'm sincere about this, the appreciation for the hard work that all of our employees do. It's every single employee in every building and every component of our organization. We had a successful first 9 weeks for our school year, and their commitment continues to drive that student progress, and I truly am appreciative of that. I do want to welcome at our first board meeting with Mrs. Lisa Walker. She is our Executive Director of HR and Compliance. It's her first time to attend and speak before the board, so I felt like it would be a good time to formally introduce her in this forum. She has transitioned into this role seamlessly. She is a go-getter. She's a hard worker. When she doesn't know or she's emailed me, I said, add it to the list, add it to the list. So when we meet, we can go through those, and she's done a fantastic job, and I just greatly appreciate her work. It has helped my transition as well. I'd like to remind you of some important events this Friday, October 25th. I know Mr. Goforth has shared with you about the Lead Arlington that is at 8:45 to 10:30. It's at the Blue Oval SK office, which is next door to us here. So if you can attend, you are welcome to. If you haven't signed up, it's okay. You can continue to come. You don't need to have that hold you back from not coming. Then Mr. Hill will speak more about this in his report, but the family engagement event, the Track or Treat, this will be our third year to do this event, and it's a fantastic opportunity because for our families, and it allows them to connect and show that we are giving back to the community, and I really like that, and it's fun, and we have a good time, and please join us. You can dress up with us as well.
When is Track or Treat?
It will be this Friday, and Mr. Hill's going to give, the time is 5:45. So we'll be getting out of here real quickly at district office because we've got to transform. Transform and have fun and hand out candy. Mr. Ruff, he isn't here tonight, so I wanted to share with you a lot of the work that he has been doing with our capital improvement projects as well as fall break. Maybe some of us were at home with our projects and our tasks. Mr. Ruff and his team were making sure that they took care of a lot of things in our building so they would be ready for us when we come back. And you know how you do those things around your house. They were doing the same with all of our facilities. So I'm going to share with you some of that. I'm pleased to share the softball field house project, an update on that. Right before fall break, directly through there, met with the town. They did approve for us to move forward, so we're waiting on Shelby County Code to provide us with the permit so we can move forward on the groundbreaking. So we are anticipating that that will progress where that we have a tentative date for Thursday, October the 31st for groundbreaking. Of course, I'll provide you with a follow-up confirmation soon because it's all dependent on the Shelby County Code, and we don't anticipate that taking long where we could project next Thursday on Halloween. We would do it about 2:30 p.m. directly after the high school is dismissed. And then the projected completion for that project is March 2025. The new football field house and RFQ is being reviewed currently for the construction manager at risk, so I'll continue to keep you abreast of that. Some of the fall break projects is Arlington High School, the AC units and upgrades. There were 3 new AC units that were installed at the high school in the study hall and the restrooms there. Then a new generator at AES was installed at Arlington Elementary School. The fire safety backflows, that was a requirement from Memphis Light, Gas, and Water, and the concrete work has been completed at AES, AMS, and AHS to address the fire safety backflows. The enhanced security, we had that at all schools. The last one be added for that double layer of security was at Arlington Middle School. So that was added over fall break. So as you, first you have to, from the outside, gain entry by identifying yourself, so on and so forth. But then when you come through, then there's another layer of security there. Arlington Middle School was the only school that did not have that second layer. They do have that now. So all of our schools have 2 layers of security. So that's good and comforting to know that we have that. I want to, let's see, well, that concludes my report, and then I'm going to see Ms. Walker, do you, from HR, have anything you'd like to share? You come up to the podium, you have the stage.
So staffing update, all of our certified positions are filled at this time. And with classified, we have one position that has recently become available because we hired and added a new position for a behavior support for special education. So that opened up a position in-house because we hired somebody who was already employed and had the qualifications for the SPED behavior support position. Our attendance rate for teachers is at 96% right now, and our substitute fill rate is at 91%. Any questions?
I do have a question, just so I understand, like, when we're at 91% on fill rate for subs, in that 9% that we don't get a sub, what happens on those days?
Typically, in-house, they figure out coverage based on the planning periods that subs are already in-house, or they can do some creative reshuffling to get coverage. I'm not sure what every school does.
It's, oftentimes we get a daily report, and I still review those along with Lisa, and what we're looking at is they have a tendency to be more of our teacher assistants, and I'm not saying those aren't critical, but it's not where we have classes not being covered.
Okay.
But if we have classes where we cannot, because it's priority to get the classes covered first.
Sure.
But say, for example, there was a high volume day, we haven't had a lot of those, but if we did, then the substitutes that we have in there, when they have planning period, they're going to cover that class.
Gotcha.
So we're not dependent on teachers to use their planning period cover class.
Okay.
That is like the last resort. And when we see that, we always work with the principals, follow up with the principals saying, you know, why are there, we understand there's emergencies of last minute calls, but we don't want that to continue because it does put a hardship and then our students
Yeah.
are at a loss.
Okay, good, thanks. So,
Okay?
Anything else? No, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, let's see, Ms. Douglas. Okay, Ms. Speakman. Okay, Ms. Sappensley. Now, Mr. Hill.
There were some murmurs from the back, always, Mr. Hill. I'll be short, I promise. So since we already briefly touched on it, I'll go ahead and kind of wrap up any details on Track or Treat. As we mentioned earlier, it starts at 5:45, but if you've been in past years, we have like 3,000 plus people come to this thing, so they start showing up a little early, sometimes around 5:30, so we just let them come on in. So if
So
you
is that
decide to
how-
come,
Is that where all the good candy goes?
that's where all in the first 10 minutes.
Full-size
So look, if you show up by the time it actually starts, I'm not sure what kind of candy.
It's just true.
Yeah, it's a lot of
Skittles.
people. It's a lot of fun. So this year we actually have more participating organizations than we've ever had before. Not only from our clubs and organizations in ACS, but we opened it up to businesses and members of the Arlington Chamber of Commerce. So we have a lot more businesses this year that have decided to join us as well. So pretty good there. Also learned today that the DeLorean will be on site. So come on out. 5:45, track or treat portion goes till about 7, and then we'll start the movie Beetlejuice, the edited for TV version, I promise. But we chose that one because we obviously have to license these films every year. They have really cracked down on these kind of movie nights, so we make sure that we license the movie first, that we can secure it, and then also the fact that Beetlejuice 2 came out, it's kind of timely. So we're using the edited for TV version of that. So that's going to start at 7, go about an hour and a half. So the whole event should be wrapped up by about 8:30, 9 o'clock. Track or treat. See you there in costume.
Tyler, one question. You said the DeLorean like you knew what that was. Like, how old were you when that movie came out? I'm just
All
curious.
right. This is
I'm just-
public.
I'm just
Public meeting. So what? That was 1988? What year did it come out?
85.
Our Film Appreciation Society sponsor, Mr. Ashby
Whoever that
from
kid
the
is,
wall.
His parents raised him. Whoever that kid
85. All right. So that was a few years before.
is. Yeah,
Your
Yes,
existence?
about 6 years before I was brought into
that's
the world.
amazing.
It's okay. I'll be your age one day. It's all right.
Just trying to make it in.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's really funny.
Yeah, so the DeLorean will be there. I have seen
amazing.
all of the Back to Futures.
Yes.
Yes. Number 2 is the best, I think. All right.
Okay.
Should we open this for
So,
debate?
any questions about Track or Treat? Very good. Excited about that event. The last thing I mentioned last month that we're going to start giving these public reports about the Legacy Grant. So since we last met, last board meeting, we've approved a little over $89,000 from the Legacy Grant. So that year-to-date total is right at $230,000. That leaves $270,000 remaining in that overall grant pot. So we're doing well, and I mentioned it last month. More people know what the Legacy Grant is, how to use it, what it could be funded for, and so I think we're spending those dollars really wisely. So just some of the things that we approved since we last met. The DECA conference, DECA being Arlington High School organization. They're going to the Sports and Entertainment Marketing Conference in Orlando. This is a great event for them. They went last year. Believe they were able, it doesn't pay for the whole trip. It definitely offsets this for families. But a good bit to where I believe it was about 40 students were able to go on this trip. So huge for them. And it's a very interactive dive into marketing, dive into business and entrepreneurship. So it really ties into DECA well.
That's up from like 16 or something like that from
Oh
last year,
yeah,
right?
before that, so the grant amount was 25,000. So that really put a dent in what those students and families were having to pay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean
good.
that was one of those organizations that went from sending maybe a little over a dozen to sending what they are able to now.
That's
So
great.
huge for them, and giving families who couldn't afford it otherwise that opportunity to go. Perennial Math at AES pays for their competition fees and various club fees and initiatives they have. The High School Beta Club is going to pay for them to go to the Beta Club State Convention. Well, it pays for transportation costs, again, offsetting that for families. We had 2 sports teams that we helped go to state. So pretty
Yeah.
cool there. The golf team, Brandon Clark, and then Isabella Shannon. Yes, Isabella Shannon. So we know about Brandon and his kind of journey through golf over the years. Isabella's a sophomore and already made it to state, so we still have her for 2 more years after this. So really rooting for Isabella, and then obviously Brandon as he decides to pursue how to pursue golf after high school. We also sent the AMS varsity volleyball to their state tournament. You know, what's good about having the Legacy Grant for sports in particular, of course, you always wish that you're going to make it to state. and that you're going to win district, regional, and make it all the way to the end. Kind of hard to plan for that. You can't plan ahead of time and ask parents for all this money when we go to state, because what happens if you don't go to state, and what do you do with that money, and how are you spending it on students? So a lot of times when it comes to sports, at the end of the season, the parents kind of look at each other and like, how much is this going to cost for state? So by having the Legacy Grant program, when we do make it to state, it's been there available to help, if not pay for that tournament, at least offset the cost through those hotel fees, transportation fees, and whatnot. So it's been really helpful in terms of helping our sports teams when they make it to that level. Moving on, AMS Fine Arts, paying for their transportation costs to attend the Music in the Parks competition that they do yearly. Transportation is out of control in the cost. I mean, just for these charter buses, for this one trip alone is like $34,000. You add that on the hotel costs and the actual competition fees, that is a lot of money for family staff to fork over. So even by taking and care of the transportation costs, you're allowing basically every student in AMS Fine Arts to be able to go to this Music in the Parks. And when I say fine arts, obviously it's choir, orchestra, and band, since it's a music competition. So that's what that's helping pay for
And
there.
that's where?
St. Louis.
St. Louis, yeah.
Yep. It's, Dr. Clark, you were principal over there. They've been going to that competition for many years.
They were going to that prior to when I was principal, but I know that was our focus, is I did not want any student left out
Yeah.
because of their family structure.
Yeah.
Was adamant. So Booster Club was always phenomenal band to help with that, to make sure. But the legacy grant, and that's something I'm going to continue focusing on, is how can we cover more costs? Because if we are public education, it's about serving all students. So
Agreed.
Yeah, love it.
And when you
That's
get into
I am.
competitions like this, which is the interesting part, right? Band is typically a very large organization, so they have a lot of students in it. Choir,
100.
not so much. So you're really kind of looking at choir students and putting a little more on them if they were having to pay out of pocket, whereas the band booster perhaps could step in with their booster and help offset that cost, whereas a choir or orchestra doesn't really have a booster. So this allows that to kind of be equitable as well there.
Love it.
The final thing that we've approved since we last met, AHS boys and girls basketball team, they had some outdated shooting machines. They haven't been updated in, gosh, maybe 2004, I don't know. It's been a long time. The school's basically been using that same machine for years. And so this is gonna purchase them those two machines, because if they were to use booster clubs, that would deplete them totally. So this helps them in that area. Hopefully shoot some good free throws and three-pointers this year. All right, so that's the legacy grant to date. Again, I'll be back next month to give you a report, but anytime you want to see these in total, just let me know and I'll send you the most updated link.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It's good, good stuff.
I am so thrilled that we have this money, that this can go, because I remember, you know, when my children were in band and sports, and it was pretty much on us. And so, this is really great that, we can do this for the kids,
Yep, love it.
because these experiences are life-changing for our students. And, it's just a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, love it. Love it.
okay, that concludes my report.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Clark. We'll move to legislative liaison. Mr. Dunn.
Yeah, so I have something to report on tonight. And this is a bill that we just need to keep on the radar as a district, but it affects not only us, of course, but the state. So I'll just give you a little background at first and then try to sew a thread through all this, because there's a lot to it. The background for this bill is back in the 2024 legislative session. Senate Bill 2775 was introduced, which would allow the General Assembly to unilaterally nullify federal laws that they did not believe were constitutional. And the impact this would have would be they would then require government agencies, schools, and school districts being one of those, to not accept or expend federal funds that are associated with those laws. So thankfully, they pushed this to a summer study. Now, fast forward to where we are now. About a week ago, the Tennessee state senators heard testimony from constitutional law experts who were giving arguments for both sides of this. There was one view that stated that this legislation would be legal. The other argued the opposite, that it would be illegal. And as you can imagine, as I would put it, there were a few zingers that they were throwing at each other. A couple of my favorite, I'll go ahead and share one. These were public and recorded. One side, I won't name which one, referred to those that favored the position of nullifying these laws as being, quote, being secession light. Okay, so we're moving towards seceding. The other side made the claim that if we as a state go along with these federal laws, that, quote, while we may be peacefully alive, we're no longer among the living. Okay, so this is a pretty hot, debated subject. Well, so how would this impact us as a district? This is something when I was speaking this or talking this over with Ms. Speakman, and of course with Amy as well, wanting to know how would this affect us and currently. So I'll try to speak to that by giving you a few details. One of those is that currently out of our budget, we currently receive dollars from the federal government at around $8 million currently, which is, as you guys know, a little over 10% of our budget. Now, the way these dollars are used currently, they help fund speech therapists for special needs students, meals and supplies for free and reduced lunch students, some construction projects, teachers and equipment for our CTE program, and then hotspots for free and reduced lunch students without Wi-Fi at home. So these dollars mean a lot just for us as a district. So as y'all can imagine, if we lost roughly 10% of our budget, a little over that, that would be difficult for us. However, as I was talking this out with Ms. Speakman, the thing that hit me is that thankfully we are a district that's very healthy financially. Now, we could get through this. It wouldn't be fun. By no means do we want to be in that situation, but there are districts in our city and in the state that this would cripple them. And so it really would hurt them and hurt these kids. So at a state level, this would equate to $1.3 billion in dollars that the government would say the schools do not receive. And as I was reading some articles about this, I found one back in November where the Tennessee Education Commissioner, she was asked about her position. Now, she may have changed this, although I haven't seen anything, and all she stated, she wouldn't really give a position. She just said, I'm watching the process. And I think that says a lot without saying much. It's just she understands the impact this could be financially. So here are my final thoughts. Personally, I'm someone that believes that there has been some overreach by the federal government, personally, with some of the actions they've taken. However, I also recognize that making decisions like these, they really need to be careful and think through the impact that this would have on children in communities. So just something for us to consider, watch it, and we'll see, because it's a pretty hot topic issue, as you can imagine.
Would it be timely and or appropriate, that seems to be, it would be, but for us to write Tennessee legislators, express our opinion about it? Is it time to do that yet, or when would that time be? Speaking, you have an opinion about that? Sorry.
I think the thing that we've got yet to do is to do our legislative agenda, our formal legislative agenda. So I think it would be appropriate to put it on that, and that we always send
Right.
to the members of the General Assembly. So I think we could include it with that. And I think the timing on that would be probably the end of December, early January is what Mr. Dunn and I are shooting for to put that together. So, which is also allows me to say if you have any other issues that you would like to be included on that, if you'd shoot us a note, and we can make sure that that's included on there. Does that make sense?
It does,
Okay.
thank you. Appreciate that.
So I get what they're trying to say, but the state doesn't have, did you say 1.2 or 1.3 billion?
1.3 billion.
They don't have that as a surplus, so that's sort of encouraging that they won't move forward with this, but also sort of disheartening in the fact that if they tried, that money would be gone.
Well,
It wouldn't be able to be made up in any
No,
way by the state, so they're just saying, to your point,
yeah.
those services would go away.
And something I didn't include, and Ms. Speakman and I spoke about this, it's all this hurricane
Yes,
stuff
well, especially in our state.
in our state. And even, you can think back to the tornadic events we had in
Here.
Tipton County.
Yeah.
And so there's just all of these things. This is a very nuanced bill. or at least it should be. It's not a clean cut, people trying to say that this or that in either extreme, I think is bad business, if you will. And so, at the end of the day, though, for me personally, I look at this and I feel like, yes, there's some things I don't personally think should be going on. However, on the other side, we don't need to impact children and students, and especially those in the areas of in schools and districts that really, it would cripple them.
Yeah.
They're already hanging on by a thread in some cases. That's just not right. But, yeah, I thought this was worth speaking to, and
Agreed.
Yeah,
Definitely worth watching.
Yeah.
I know where there's 140 million for a failed voucher program we could send to East Tennessee.
right.
Thought.
Maybe we should write that into our legislative agenda.
I mean, it's just sitting there, right?
Yeah.
That's what they say. Thank you, Mr. Dunn. All right, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve our consent agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Dr. Viox. Second by Ms. Conley. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion passes. I will move to business recommended action items. Dr. Clark.
Yes, I recommend and ask approval for the Science Textbook Adoption Committee. So,
All right, so you've heard superintendent's recommendation. Would you like to elaborate on that before?
It's the first
well,
step.
That's
I'm
right.
gonna be quite honest with you. I wanted to elaborate, but I wanted to elaborate at the correct time.
All
I
right,
didn't
well, you
want to
will.
jump ahead.
All right, thank you. We'll start right there.
So I didn't
You've
know.
heard the superintendent's recommendation. Motion by Mr. Dunn, second by Dr. Viox. Any discussion? Dr. Clark?
That's what I was
There you
waiting
go.
for. I thought there was a
There
cue.
you know what? There you go.
Thank you. So the state will release a list of approved science textbooks November the 22nd. But we like to be proactive here in Arlington Community Schools, so we want to go ahead and have a committee already formed. This committee is representative of teachers in different grade levels at each one of our schools, along with a parent from each school as well. So once that the state gives their final approved science textbooks, at that time, November the 22nd, we will be ready to, the vendors will begin sending the textbook samples to the district and at the schools, and then the committee can start reviewing those items. Also in there, there is a component they put in there, the math reasoning for decision-making is also in there with the science textbooks, which include biology, chemistry, physics, and K-8 science textbooks. We don't know what type of textbooks that they will approve. We don't know the content until that is sent to us, and then the reviewing committee can do that. As always, at the local schools on January 23rd, 2025, then we'll open it up to parents can come and view those textbooks and provide their feedback. And as always, we will make sure we communicate that where everyone knows they have that opportunity to do that.
Great. Any questions for Dr. Clark? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, the motion passes. One last thing that I did not mention during just my report or in passing was Congressman Kustoff was here since our last meeting and toured our CTE. He was at the high school for a while. I thought it was a great visit from him. Dr. Clark, you spent some time with him. He seemed very impressed with what's happening over there. I was overly impressed with our students because I got a chance to just talk to some of them as they're handling those machines, and they know all about that stuff. It was a very impressive group of students that were part of that, and so it was really cool that the congressman got to see that as well.
And that's part of the vision of the district office with the principals is ensuring that we maximize our programs at all levels. And in doing that, having students speak to that. And you will see, if you're able to attend the chamber luncheon, we're gonna have student representation. It's just not gonna be me speaking about the district. We're gonna have students telling our business community that how they are being prepared for either the college or career or service, and how we're making them a product
Love it. That's great.
to serve.
That's awesome. That's coming up, November 13th, yeah. So Dr. Clark will be is the keynote speaker, but it sounds like she's gonna yield some of her time to our students.
The students,
I
that's
know, exactly.
Get more people.
That's right. That's awesome. Anything else from anyone? All right, we are adjourned.